Welcome to this segment in the Adventures series on survival. The focus today will be on fire building. Being able to build a fire in the outdoors, especially in a survival situation, is of immense importance. A fire gives you the sense of comfort, gives you warmth. It provides some signaling ability at night. For these and other reasons, being able to build a fire is quite crucial. For this, I've invited you into my backyard because I have a little fire pit here where it's easy for me to practice fire building. Perhaps you have one of these, perhaps you don't. You might look and see where, in a safe environment and with your parents' permission, you can practice a small fire building, and it will go a long way. Better to practice now than being in a survival situation and having to practice then. To build a fire, you need three things: oxygen, an ignition source, and fuel. The fuel is obviously your firewood, which consists of the smallest things known as tinder, to the next size up called kindling, and finally the actual firewood. Oxygen should not be a problem unless you try to suffocate the little fire with all manner of fuel, in which case you'll block out the oxygen. An ignition source can be a number of things, and you have a lot of options that way. You could certainly use waterproof matches, which I recommend. There are some that come with a long stem, so they last a little longer. You could certainly, if you're up for it, have a manner of flint and steel. This one is a commercial product where you can scrape magnesium off of it and then create some sparks to ignite the magnesium. There are multiple ways to have an ignition source. I would suggest keeping it simple, keeping it easy. In building a fire, you're going to need three things. In addition to the three that I've mentioned, the oxygen, ignition source, and fuel. You're going to actually need three types of firewood, three types of fuel. The first one will be the tin. This is the little crumbly, dry grasses and leaves. Perhaps the fluffy part of the inside of a bark that's dry. A number of things you can use for tinder. I try to keep it simple, and so instead of having to look all over for tinder, I sort of bring my own tinder. A small votive candle, conserved function of tinder. And after the tinder, you need kindling, which is those little small skinny branches that are critical to help build the fire. And finally, the bigger fuel, the firewood itself, the thicker, bigger pieces. And you want to remember, when you build a fire, you'll want to treat it like a baby. You'll want to start with little bitty food, and then perhaps a little bit bigger food, and then finally the big stuff, the fuel. Otherwise, you might choke off the ability for the fire to have oxygen. And so these three things should be prepared ahead of time. In a survival situation or any fire building situation, have it prepared ahead of time. Fires are hungry, so the more you have, the better. And so in a bit here, we're going to demonstrate a simple technique for building a fire using my magic tinder device. And that will be coming up next. It's a wonderful, wonderful and easy way to build a fire in a survival situation, even when there's moisture around.